The Reform UK MPs have called for a national debate on the death penalty after the Southport killer was sentenced. We're going to read into this more from the Independent, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from the Independent with the headline that Reform UK MPs have called for a national debate on the death penalty after the Southport killer was sentenced. One MP from Nigel Farage's party, Lee Anderson, posted a picture of the noose on his ex account, adding, "No apologies here, this is what is required," while Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said Bianca would likely never be released. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Now, obviously, first and foremost, my thoughts and prayers are, of course, with the friends and families of those who lost their loved ones as a result of what the killer did here, of the Southport killer, and of course what happened in the aftermath of this Southport killing, which led to the riots in the UK. And these are all events that should never have happened in the first place. There are still many questions as to why this happened and what we need to learn from it, and which is why I'm glad that the government has announced a public inquiry into this, because there are many questions that need to be answered as to why this person ended up becoming the person that they did and did what they did, to try and understand that. But specifically, before we get into this story, we want to talk about the death penalty. Now, I am firmly against the death penalty. I think the death penalty is immoral. I think it's wrong, and I think I've always considered the death penalty to be a get-out-of-jail-free card for perpetrators. And the fact that this has been brought up now, when we've had deaths in the past by other terrible, tragic cases, and there was no mention of it here. Why are we mentioning this now? Why are Reform bringing this up now? Where were, like someone pointed out, where was Reform talking about this with Lucy Letby? Well, Reform weren't around back then, but nobody was calling for the death penalty when what happened to Lucy Letby, for example. So why are Reform bringing this up? Why do they want to have a conversation about the death penalty? We don't want the death penalty. We don't need the death penalty. Just because America has the death penalty doesn't mean we should follow suit. And here's another thing as well. So some people may argue the costs of it all as well. So some people will come out with the argument, oh, well, Regan, here's the thing, like, if we have the death penalty, we're no longer paying for them to be in prison. We're no longer paying for them to be fed. We're no longer paying for them to be in the cells. We're saving ourselves money, is essentially what some people may argue there for it. Well, it costs money to have the person killed. That's the first counter argument to that. The second counter argument is that not everyone who goes to prison for crimes that they've been found guilty of are actually guilty. There are many cases where people have faced time in prison when they've turned out to be innocent. And the last thing I think that I would want to know is that the British government or the state executed the death penalty on somebody that could have been innocent. Now, of course, we can argue till the cows come home about whether someone is innocent or guilty, but there is always that risk that someone who gets the death penalty could be innocent. You're going to tell me that in the US they've never committed the death penalty on anyone that hasn't been innocent, where there hasn't been a mistake? I'd be very surprised if every single person who got the death penalty in the US is all guilty. You're going to tell me that not one of them is perhaps innocent? I think it's worth a question. For me, and the term that I use, get out of jail free card, is because for me, the best punishment for any crime, for any criminal, is for them to be locked up is for them to rot away as time passes on. As they grow up and get older and grow whatever their age is, as they rot in prison, as opposed to just switching off the lights for them. Because that's what I see the death penalty as. An easy way out for them. Like rather than making them rot and making them perhaps maybe have second thoughts about what they did. That's the way I see it for me. But you can agree to disagree. But that's my premise on the death penalty. So MPs in Nigel Farage Reform UK Party are called for a debate on the death penalty after a killer who murdered 3 girls at a children's dance class was sentenced. Axel Rudakubana, 18, was given a life with a minimum of 52 years in prison for the horrific attack which was described as a premeditated attempt to commit indiscriminate mass murder. Judge Mr Justice Goose said he was unable to hand him a rare whole life order because he was only 17 at the time of the attack on the 27th of July last year. He turned 18 just 9 days later. 52 years. Just cannot understand some people. But there is something happened to this person, which is why we need a public inquiry to understand why somebody did what they did. Southport's Labour MP Patrick Hurley said the sentence was not severe enough. He asked the Attorney General to review the sentence as unduly lenient. The Attorney General Office said the case had been referred under the unduly lenient sentence scheme, which requires just one request in order for punishments to be handed out in court to be reconsidered. Attorney General Lord Hummer and Solicitor General Lucy Rigby have 28 days to decide whether to refer the sentence to the Court of Appeal. Meanwhile, Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice, who knows nothing about anything, has called for a national debate on the death penalty. He wasted his time on LBC by saying, "I don't think we should be afraid of having a national debate on important issues like this. I think many people in the country would like at least a debate." Based on what? The last use of the death penalty in the UK took place in 1964. Another Reform MP who doesn't know anything about politics, Robert Lau, said it was time for a national debate on the use of capital punishment in exceptional circumstances. They want to do this to this kid? Is that what they want to do? Thirdly, Anderson posted a picture of a noose on his X account, adding, "No apologies here, this is what is required." Party leader Nigel Farage also called for Director of Public Prosecutions Stephen Parkinson to resign. He said the British public need to have the confidence in the CPS and our British forces. Tens of millions of British citizens will find it incomprehensible how the CPS decided that this was a non-terror incident and maintained that position. Those in positions of power have to be accountable and responsible for their actions. The Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the killer as a vile offender, who, as the judge has stated, will never likely be released. He added that the faults of the entire nation were with the families and all those affected by the unimaginable horrors that unfolded. The Lib Dem leader Ed Davey has said, "I cannot imagine the enduring pain that their families are going through. No punishment will ever seem like enough. The government has an urgent duty to the family in our country to learn the lessons from what happened and ensure a tragedy on this scale can never happen again." And we hope a case like this never happens again. And none of us want a case like this happening again. But my question is, what has this got to do with the death penalty? We have far more important things to be dealing with than the death penalty. I'm sure many of you have much more graver concerns about what is happening in the UK and in the world than talking about the damn death penalty. Now is not the time to be talking about the death penalty. There are far bigger things we should be discussing in the House of Commons, and this is on the low list of things. Yeah, and I'm sure many of you will agree with that. Now, some people may be in favour of the death penalty, and some people, rightly or wrongly, will argue that what this person did should be given the death penalty because of what he did. That's your opinion, and you're perfectly entitled to express that opinion. But I don't agree. I don't think, now is not the time to have a discussion about them. It's far better things to discuss than the death penalty, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of the situation? The Reform UK MPs are calling for a national debate on the death penalty. What do you make of the sentencing of the Southport killer? Let me know your thoughts and more on this down in the comment section below. If you found this video informative or helpful to you in any way, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing as well, so it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by joining the YouTube membership for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.